Mark Hughes certainly loves a challenge. He underlined this fact earlier this year by taking charge of a failing Bradford City in the bottom half of League Two. His love for football once led the 72-cap Wales striker to agree to play twice on the same day at the height of his career. As if it wasn't taxing enough, the two games were in different countries. Let's discuss this in today's video. First of all, Mark Hughes on playing twice in a day. Mark Hughes told The Athletic he'd just joined Bayern Munich, and after his debut, he couldn't get out of commitments. As a result, it led him to the house of Uli Hoeness, the Bayern GM, for dinner. Since Wales was due to play Czechoslovakia in a European Championship qualifier a few days later, he asked what time it was due to kick off. Uli asked if he would play for them at night in the Cup. He agreed, of course, and it ended up with him flying back from the Wales game right over the stadium where Bayern was playing and arrived at halftime. Hughes became an instant hero at the Olympic Stadium that day in November 1987 after hurrying the 200 miles from Prague to Munich via a private jet. The 58-year-old, who'd been whisked away from playing the whole of Wales' 2-0 defeat behind the then still standing Iron Curtain by Lada, still sporting his kit, recalled how Bayern did win 3-2 against Borussia Mönchengladbach, and he had come on when they were a goal behind. According to him, he'd love to claim that he'd changed the game, but the win was a little too due to him. It was Karl-Heinz Rummenigge's brother, Michael, who'd come on at the same time as him. He scored twice, whereas Hughes was saying, "I was rubbish." Too modest. Also, what has Hughes been up to in the past few years? Not long ago, memories looked like Hughes had left in football, having been sacked as Southampton manager back in December 2018. He'd taken a well-earned break from a sport that has been his professional life for the best of 40 years. He enjoyed holidays along with other leisure pursuits that weren't exactly common in the 24/7 existence that was the life of a football manager, but after 12 months or so, Hughes felt the itch to get back in. But the timing was lousy, with COVID-19 shutting the world down not long afterwards. Football without crowds held little appeal for someone who had played in front of full houses at some of football's most iconic stadiums, including Camp Nou and Old Trafford. Hughes was truly ready to return when things finally started to open up again. By then, just getting interviewed for jobs proved problematic for someone taking charge of 466 Premier League games. Only a handful of men have chalked up more. Hughes said that as a manager, you get to the point where you know when you're done. Of course, the game can retire you before you're ready, but he didn't want that to happen to him. Next, Mark Hughes on ensuring the Bradford fired is always remembered. Enter Bradford, a Premier League club at the turn of the century and League Cup finalists as recently as 2013, but very much in a rut. 2 days before Hughes was unveiled, a widespread shock. As the 9th manager at Valley Parade in 4 years, City lost 3-1 at home to Harrogate Town, long-time non-leaguers in their second ever EFL season. The level of disillusionment was such that the third of the club's 12,700 season ticket holders were regularly staying away despite having paid upfront for previous summer. Even dropping down to the 4th division wasn't totally straightforward. An email from his son and agent, Alex, which registered Hughes' interest in succeeding Derek Adams, initially got stuck in Ryan Sparks' spam folder. Once the email had been spotted, talks finally began. Hughes knew that this was a high-risk decision, especially in terms of the potential for it to go wrong. He always tried to avoid reputational damage, but he put himself out there because he felt it was time to get back in. Plus, Bradford had been successful before, so he thought, why not again? Working with Bradford these days, life has been full of firsts for Hughes these past 8 months. There have been trips to unfamiliar lower league outposts such as Colchester United and Barrow. At the same time, the former Manchester United striker has had to get his head around not staying overnight before some matches. Mark Hughes does worry a bit about a practice that was given when working in the Premier League with the likes of Fulham, Queen's Park Rangers, Blackburn Rovers, and Stoke City, but according to him, those guys just shrug it off. They've always done it, so he goes with what makes them comfortable, and there's been a first taste of the Football League trophy. Well, next month will also bring his maiden involvement in the FA's Cup first round. Hughes noted that he watched the Cup at his stage as fans at Wrexham, but managing will be something of a first. Bradford has a lot of glorious history and continues to be applauded as the history makers by many supporters, but can they return to the Premier League in the next few years? That's the ultimate question. What about Bradford's current position? Whether the current crop can earn a place among the pantheon of favorite sons still remains to be seen, but things seem to be clicking into gear under Hughes, whose own skills have been on display via some touchy trickery against Scunthorpe United last season. The culminated in a perfectly executed backheeled half volley into the hands of a City player waiting to make a throw-in after a pretty slow start to the season that saw just one of the opening games out of 4 yield maximum points. Bradford now sits 5th in the table. Saturday's win at Salford City was their 4th straight win on the road. If they manage to beat Grimsby Town at Blundell Park this weekend, it will be their longest winning run away from home in the league since the 1984-85 season, which ended up in triumph as well as tragedy. It was the day that the presentation of the 3rd Division title was followed by a fire ripping through the main stand. Hughes was already established as a formidable center forward for Manchester United when disaster struck at Valley Parade, but having attended this year's annual memorial service in the city's Centenary Square, he appreciated how the tragic events of May 11, 1985 continued to resonate across Bradford, plus Wales in the upcoming World Cup. Hughes said that to be at a World Cup for the first time in many years was brilliant. After all, he was Wales's manager for 5 years before returning to the domestic game with Blackburn in 2004. There aren't any direct clashes between Wales at the World Cup and Bradford's promotion push, at least in the group stage. The match on December 3rd in Leyton Orient is currently scheduled for 3 p.m. The exact time Wales, if they manage to finish second in Group B, will kick off at least 16 tie. Not that Hughes would ultimately mind if that does change, especially as he's now back doing what he loves the most on Saturday afternoons. Moving on, Mark Hughes helped shape Manchester United's class of 9. On Saturday, Mark Hughes' Bradford City took on a club owner by former teammates who see him as one of the biggest influences on their careers. He promised that sentiment wouldn't come into it, having learned about football from tough professionals like Hughes. Salford City co-owners Gary Neville, Nicky Butt, Phil Neville, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, and David Beckham knew that much. And while the class of '92 was unusual in passing from pitch to boardroom, Hughes expects more to follow. He recalled that David Beckham took his place at the digs when he moved out, since many people recall that his second spell at Manchester United coincided with the sextet's emergence. The legendary also managed to downplay his own influence, saying that the dressing room had a lot of strong and different personalities in terms of what they demanded, but he was delighted that the players who reached the international level invested in Salford. Mark also thinks a lot of players that in that era will get involved in the ownership of clubs. Maybe people in the past haven't had the resources, network, and backers. It's great that they now see their interest as trying to promote a football club that needs help. Hughes himself lived in Salford for 7 years as a kid, and each of the class of '92 did as well. He thinks it's really great they were trying to give something back. But that's going to be a wrap for this video, my friends. What did you think of Mark Hughes on ensuring the Bradford Fire is always remembered and playing twice in a day? And how do you think he helped shape Manchester United's class of '92? Let us know in the comments below. Please make sure to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon for more notifications on similar videos. Thank you so much for watching.